The Signs of the Times, chapter 110, December the 4th, 1879. The great controversy between Christ and his angels and Satan and his angels continued. Jacob's second visit to Bethel by Mrs. E.G. White. Jacob made his home in Shechem, and having purchased a piece of land, he erected his tent and close beside it his altar, and dedicated them to God. The sons of Jacob were not all governed by religious principle. The inhumane treatment of the Shechemites was offensive to God. Their father was kept in ignorance of their purpose until the work of cruelty was accomplished. And when he had learned what had been done, he severely rebuked them for their treacherous, revengeful course. Simeon and Levi attempted to defend themselves by urging that they had thus avenged the wrong done to their sister. But Jacob assured them that nothing could justify their conduct. For the sin of one man, they had caused the innocent inhabitants of a whole city to suffer. These people had placed confidence in them, and thus had been shamefully betrayed. The God of Israel had been dishonored. Jacob felt deeply humiliated. He knew that the deception and cruelty had been practiced, and he felt he would now be hated and despised by the inhabitants of the country around them. He saw too that treachery and cruelty was growing upon his sons, and that they were forgetting God and allowing infidelity to come into their hearts. He knew that there was cause for self-condemnation in this matter, and he began to reflect upon his own conduct in allowing his beloved Rachel to conceal her father's gods, which she had stolen, when he should have destroyed at once everything which would lead to infidelity. There were false gods in the camp of Israel, and he had not used prompt means to destroy them, and idolatrous worship was more or less practiced by his household. He knew that should God deal with them in the present instant according to their crime, he would permit the surrounding nation to take vengeance upon them. While Jacob was thus bowed down with trouble, the Lord had compassion upon him and directed him to leave his place and move southward to Bethel. At the mention of this name, the patriarch is reminded not only of his vision of the angels ascending and descending, and of God above them speaking to him words of comfort, but also of the vow which he had made there, that if God would keep and bless him, the Lord should be his God. And he reflects thus: have I been faithful to my promise as God has been to me? He saw and felt the necessity of being more thorough and decided in his family, to put away everything that savored of idolatry. He determined to cleanse the camp, that his company might go to this sacred spot, free from defilement. He therefore stands up and addresses them. Put away the strange gods that are among you, and be clean, and change your garments, and let us arise and go up to Bethel. And I will make there an altar unto God, who answered me in the day of my distress, and was with me in the way which I went. He then, with trembling voice and quivering lip, related to them his perplexity. When but a youth, he left his father's tent, a lonely traveler, afraid of his life, with no earthly friend to comfort or encourage. Passing Hebron and Moriah, he came in the evening of the second day to Bethel, the spot made sacred by the sacrifices and prayers of Abraham. He felt heartsick and friendless in his solitude and lay down to sleep. It was here that God gave him the encouraging dream of the heavenly ladder which reached from earth to heaven. Angels of God were ascending and descending upon this ladder of shining brightness, and the Lord himself stood above it and spoke to him these encouraging words. I am the Lord God of Abraham thy father, and the God of Isaac. The land whereon thou liest, to thee will I give it, and to thy seed, and thy seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and in thee and thy seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed. And behold, I am with thee, and will keep thee in all places whither thou goest, and will bring thee again into this land. On awaking from this dream, Jacob felt that the spot was peopled with angels, and that God was looking with tender love and compassion upon him. And he there set up a memorial signifying that he would ever remember the loving kindness of God. As Jacob thus reviewed the goodness and mercy of God to him, his own heart was subdued and humbled, and he had taken the most effectual way to reach the hearts of his children and lead them to reverence the God of heaven when they arrive at Bethel. Not in the least did any of his family hesitate to obey his command. All that were with him delivered up their idols and also their earrings, and he buried them under an oak near Shechem. The patriarch felt that humiliation before God was more in keeping with their position than was the wearing of gold, silvers, and silver ornaments. Jacob had now done his duty in cleansing his household from idolatry, and he set out with them on his journey to Bethel. For the sake of his servant Jacob, who had no part in the cruelty practiced under the Shechemites, the Lord caused fear to fall upon the inhabitants of the land, that they did not arise to avenge the deed done to Shechem. The travelers moved on their way unmolested and came to Bethel. Here Jacob, in obedience to the divine command, immediately erected an altar, upon which he performed the vow made when on his journey from Canaan to Mesopotamia. Of all the substance that had been placed with him in trust, he rendered an offering to God. Although it took from him quite a large share of his possessions, the self-denial and beneficence here manifested rebukes the self-indulgence of many professed Christians and the meager offerings which they bring to God. Many put into the Lord's treasury a sum less than the price of their cigars, and far less than the cost of the ornaments that adorn their person and their houses, their persons and their houses, and the hurtful luxury upon their tables. Eternity will reveal the narrowness and selfishness of these minds. What will be their feelings when Christ shall reveal to them the value of souls and the infinite importance of their salvation? The Lord accepted the offering of Jacob and met with and blessed him and renewed his covenant with him as a lasting memorial of this additional token of divine favor. Jacob again erected a pillar of stone, which he consecrated in the unusual manner. Jacob's heart yearned to visit his early home once more and look again upon his aged father's face. With his family, he journeyed toward Hebron. Before they had proceeded far on the way, Rachel gave birth to Benjamin. She had only a moment's space of life in which to name him, when she died, calling him Benoni, the son of my sorrow. But Jacob named him Benjamin, the son of my right hand and my strength. Rachel was buried where she died, and above her grave was placed a stone monument to perpetuate her memory. Rebekah, his mother, was dead, and while they were at Bethel, Deborah, his mother's nurse, also died, and was there buried with expression of great sorrow, for she had been an honored member of his father's family. The meeting of Jacob with his father was a joyful one to both father and son. Isaac was very old, blind, and dependent, but he lived some years after the return of his son. At the deathbed of their father, the two brothers, Jacob and Esau, met and united their grief. Once Esau had looked forward to this event as a time when he would be revenged upon Jacob for stealing from him his father's blessing. But his feeling had greatly changed. Jacob was now wealthy, and he returned to Esau the blessing of possession so recklessly sold for a mess of pottage. Therefore, the two brothers, no longer separated by enmity, jealousy, and hatred, parted from each other because of their possessions. Jacob also knew that their religious faith was so unlike, it would be better for them to live apart. Jacob's character was greatly modified and refined by the blessing received from the angel in that night of terrible conflict. And ever after he was reverenced by all who knew him, his trial had not been in vain.